What does silence mean? Not the kind that brings peace, but the kind that hides deep wounds, that covers up painful truths, and in the end, destroys lives and families. Today we will explore a story that transcends the holy books. It is a story about how David, a man after God's own heart, failed terribly as a father. It is not a story of victories or songs. It is a warning about how the silence of those who are meant to protect can be more devastating than any violence. To understand the magnitude of this family tragedy, we must travel to Jerusalem, some 1,000 years before Christ. At the highest point in the city stood the royal palace, where David, Israel's most famous king, lived. This brave man, who defeated giants and composed psalms, had a prosperous kingdom and a name synonymous with wisdom and justice. However, within his own home, something very different was brewing. David had several wives and concubines, and from these a total of 19 children. His numerous children grew up in the palace in an environment fraught with inevitable family tensions. Among them was Amnon, the firstborn, in the direct line to the throne. There was also Absalom, a charismatic young man known for his beauty, and Tamar, Absalom's sister, a young woman of virtuous and kind character. But Tamar's life was about to be shattered by a chain of events that her own father could have prevented. This story is a warning for us today, as David's family leadership mistakes continue to be repeated today. By analyzing what led to Tamar's tragedy, we find patterns and signs that can be avoided in our families. How can a leader so insightful in matters of state become so blind to problems in his own home? How can a man sensitive to composing psalms become deaf to the suffering of his own daughter? A family divided by ambitions. To understand this drama, we must first look at David's family complexity. The king's sons lived surrounded by privileges, but also by rivalries. Each son represented not only the future of the throne, but also the ambitions of their respective mothers. Tensions between the sons increased as they grew up with different mother figures and entourages supporting each prince. Amnon, being the firstborn, enjoyed privileged access to the palace and a notable power of influence. Absalom, on the other hand, possessed charisma and a strong sense of personal justice. In their midst, Tamar lived protected, as was customary for virgin princesses of the time. But the complex and competitive environment of the palace would be her downfall, and the signs of danger that David did not perceive within his own house would soon be visible. In this environment, there was a crucial character, Amnon's cousin Jonadab, described in Scripture as cunning. Jonadab observed the relationship between Amnon and Tamar, and would be the catalyst that would lead to disaster. This individual, instead of keeping Amnon from dark thoughts, suggested a perverse plan, demonstrating how manipulative people can take advantage of family vulnerability. The advice that would change destiny. Amnon had developed a confusing and excessive affection for his sister Tamar, and his decline caught Jonadab's attention. Instead of helping him find clarity and calm, Jonadab suggested that he pretend to be sick and ask David to have Tamar take care of him. In those days, it was common for the women of the family to take care of him, so Amnon's request did not seem strange to his father. David, trusting, accepted the request without suspecting what could happen. With this simple gesture of trust, he unwittingly facilitated a situation that would change his daughter's life forever. Tamar, without imagining what would happen, entered Amnon's room to take care of him. At that moment, Amnon's confused feelings came to the surface, and although Tamar was reluctant, he did not respect her wishes. This difficult moment did not end there. What Amnon claimed as affection quickly turned into coldness and rejection, creating a deep wound in Tamar. Devastated, she left the palace in sadness, with her clothes torn and covered in ashes, expressing her pain. David, upon learning of the situation, felt deep indignation, but chose not to intervene, and that silence brought with it consequences that would mark the lives of all those involved. David's silence and its impact. David's silence at this critical moment is one of the darkest aspects of the story. Although the biblical text tells us that he was enraged, no action is mentioned. David did not confront Amnon, nor did he take steps to restore Tamar's dignity or bring justice. This silence is perhaps David's worst failing as a father and king, as he allowed pain and injustice to take root in his home. Many scholars have tried to understand the reasons for David's inaction. Some believe he may have felt paralyzed by his own guilt, remembering his sin with Bathsheba. Others suggest he may have felt caught between his roles as king and father. But whatever the cause, the lack of justice and support for Tamar opened a wound that would never heal. This indifference had consequences that reverberated throughout the family. Absalom, Tamar's brother, could not bear Amnon's impunity or his sister's suffering. He held a grudge, and for 2 years waited for the right moment to avenge Tamar. Finally, at a banquet, Absalom ordered Amnon's death. The justice David failed to deliver was taken by his own son, setting off a cycle of violence and hatred in the royal family. Family leadership lessons. What lessons can we draw from this story for our own lives? First, the importance of supervision and communication within the home. Despite being a wise king, David failed to notice the dangerous dynamics between his sons. The lesson here is that no matter how busy we are with our external responsibilities, we must take care of our family and not ignore the danger signs in our own home. Another crucial lesson is the value of acting in the face of injustice, especially within the family. David's silence at a critical moment sent a message of indifference to his children. As parents, we must remember that not acting in the face of our children's suffering is often more damaging than the pain itself. Ultimately, this story teaches us that family leadership is not just about authority and control, but about empathy and protection. A leader can be strong and insightful in his public decisions, but if he cannot protect and guide his family, his authority is incomplete. David, the king of Israel, neglected his family and paid a high price. His legacy of justice was tainted by the tragedy of Tamar and Absalom's cycle of revenge, which ultimately jeopardized his kingdom. Bottom line, the cost of ignoring pain. Tamar's story is a reminder of how silence, when it covers injustice, can have a devastating price. David's failure to respond to his daughter's abuse not only destroyed Tamar's peace, but poisoned his family and brought suffering to his kingdom. This story invites us to reflect on our responsibility as parents, as leaders, and as human beings, reminding us that true leadership begins at home. If this video has inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And of course, share your experiences in the comments. Together, we can build a strong and positive community. Thank you for joining us on this journey of growth and transformation. See you in the next video.